Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Believe You Are a Good Mom podcast. I'm Emily Wardrop from Drop the Word Life Coaching, where we help moms of young kids drop power struggle wars to create more peace in their parenting. Do you want to be a good mom? I will tell you the one simple secret of how to be a good mom. You already are. Don't believe me? You've come to the right place. I'm glad you're here. I've got you. Because when you truly believe you are a good mom, everything will change for you as you live into the truth of who you've always been. Let's get started. Okay, good morning, my friends. Who wants to talk about peace today? This is Emily Wardrop from Drop the Word Life Coaching, where we drop power struggle wars to create peace in our parenting. Peace, people. We're here to create peace. Let me tell you a little bit about the peace symbol because I have it right here on my little name tag thing. And in 7th grade, I used to sign my last name. It had 2 O's in it, my maiden name. Some of you may know what that is. Anyway, one of the O's I would turn into a peace symbol and the other one would be a yin yang. And I was just realizing the other day, I don't know that much about the yin yang actually, because I was at Claire's before Christmas and my son was like, "What is with the symbol of China everywhere in here?" And I was like, yeah, lots of things are made in China. Like I wasn't really listening to him, I was looking at all this stuff in Claire's. And then I was like, wait, what is he talking about? And I realized he was talking about the yin yang symbol all over all the stuff at Claire's, right? And I was like, oh, that's not the symbol of China, buddy. And then I'm like, he's like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I guess I don't really know. Anyway, if I was going to talk about that, I would have looked it up before the episode. But we're talking about the peace symbol instead. I guess I don't really know that much about the symbol either. But the point is that even in 7th grade, I knew I was some sort of hippie that that here I'm back to it again because I'm all about this peace thing. So at Christmas, we talked about peace a little bit too, because it comes up a lot at Christmas. But this is what I want to talk about today about peace. Do you know the coaching model that I use that I got from Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School? A lot of times when we're Life Coach School coaches, we say things like, well, where does that fit in the model? So if we're talking about peace, where does peace fit in the model? Meaning, is it a circumstance, a thought, a feeling, an action, or a result? And if it's something awesome enough to fit in more than one place in the model, then that's something that I like to think about. I like thinking about, I don't know, deeper concepts, or you could call it, or something. So peace has always, I think pretty much any LCS certified coach would probably put it in the feeling line. But I like to think about things that kind of surpass the model. Like, I like to think of peace as a state of being. You know how I love to talk about being instead of doing as an action line. So you could do things like you could do peaceful things that's being driven by the feeling of peace, right? Oh, there you go. There's my alarm for my Wednesday email again. So a little reminder here as a little interruption. Some podcasts interrupt and then have their own little advertisements. That's what we're doing here. So make sure you get on my Wednesday Wisdom with Emily Wardrop email. Every Wednesday I send out an email that has like a real quick little tip, trick, or tool, right? A little message that you can apply right away and help you out in your parenting or whatever. If it's not parenting that you come to me for, it's all good. Anyway, so it's kind of like a bite-sized podcast message. I also always reference the podcasts that I've put out that week and anything else that's going on up in here at Drop the Word Life Coaching. So make sure you get on that email list because it's good stuff. And it comes straight to your inbox. So can this podcast, right? Have you subscribed? So it's coming straight to your podcast inbox. Anyway, okay. Back to peace as a state of being, right? So it can be your result, right? And that I think that is our goal, right? So when I say to create more peace in your parenting, we're putting peace in our result line. Like that is a result that I'm going to help you do in our coaching sessions, is to be a peaceful parent. Be kind of is the result line. So when I say a state of being is sort of like outside the model, I mean, if you ask Brooke, everything is contained in the model. So she would probably put all the being as the result line. Okay. So peace can be the result. You can take peaceful action that's driven by peaceful feelings. So for sure, I'm not contesting that peace goes in the feeling line. That's where I would put it too. You feel peaceful, but we'll talk more about that. And then you can think that we could talk about that too, how peace works in the thought line actually, or that peace is a thought or whatever. And then you could even work it into the circumstance somehow. So the point is that any concept, right? They're all just mental constructs, right? It's just words that we've given meaning, and we're trying to just figure out what the heck is going on with this mortal life and these bodies and this, life, right? And this world. And so all of this is just, thoughts and mental constructs. And so it's fun to be able to play with it anywhere. So the reason why we're not going to consider it today a human emotion is because human, and like I said, we're trying to figure out this world. So if we go to John 14:27, does anybody know that off the top of their head? Because this is a common scripture. It's often quoted, and for good reason. This is off the hook. So Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." So peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. So today what we're going to talk about is the peace that comes from the Prince of Peace himself, Jesus Christ, right? So he says that he's going to leave us with his peace, not as the world giveth. So when I think about the model, what it is it's trying to figure out our earthly state, right? And like my coach Jody Moore always says about because people ask her about God in the model, and her answer is always God is outside the model. Like the model is a human thing. It's figuring out our humanity. It's figuring out, our state as humans, and God is not a human. Like my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. My ways are higher than your ways. So he has like this God model that's like higher than our earthly model, right? Where his thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways, his actions, right, are not our ways. But he says that he's going to leave us his peace. So whatever, like in this godly model, wherever peace looks like in that model, he's giving that to us. And that's why it feels a little jiggy trying to figure it into our own human model, because it's part of his God model. Does that make sense? In like a awesome, none of this makes sense kind of way. So I find it very exciting. On the last podcast, I talked about my 4-minute mile and what my 4-minute mile would be, meaning a goal that the world, right? We're talking about the world again, not as the world giveth. The world says that peace is impossible, right? Peace on earth. I hung my head in shame. I said, there is no peace on earth. I said, whatever that, for shame is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men, however that Christmas carol goes, right? That it's like, the world thinks that peace is impossible, right? And it's got lots of good evidence for that. Like if the opposite of peace is war, right? Wardrop is my last name from Drop the Word Life Coaching. If you haven't caught on to that yet, I meet people all the time that they're like, "Oh, I just figured that out." That's why I always say I'm Emily Wardrop from Drop the War Life Coaching to try to connect it. But anyway, so yeah, there's worldwide wars going on, right? There's also wars within our own heads. There's wars in our own homes with our own beloved children that we love, and we love them so much. Why are we at war with them? Let's drop the war, right? The war among siblings. I say it to my kids all the time. I'm like, drop the war drops. We're all little war drops here. Somebody needs to drop this war. So peace, being the opposite of war, seems like impossible in this world because it's a fallen world and it's full of war, right? But Christ left us his peace, right? Not as the world giveth. His peace he gives us. So, Okay, so the 4-minute mile is something impossible, right? So the world says that running a mile in less than 4 minutes was impossible until somebody did it. And so on the last podcast, I asked you, what's your goal that's impossible that, the world says or your brain says or both? Because the world says and your brain's adopted that is impossible. But once you believe that it's possible, then you're halfway there, right? The only reason we think and believe that it's impossible is because nobody's done it before, but that doesn't matter. Let's be the evidence that it is possible. So, the very day that I recorded this 4-minute mile podcast, where I told you that my 4-minute mile is to essentially have peace, right? I want a peaceful day. I cannot tell you what a 4-minute mile I had that very day. It's like I started the day with the intention, I believed it, and then I lived it. It was the best day evs. I was like on fire. You can go see me on Zill Eiler's Instagram live the other day to see what kind of mood I was in my 4-minute mile day. It was incredible. I was on fire. There was miracles everywhere. Like the house was clean. I was like, wait, but when did the house get clean? I was like, oh yeah, I did that this morning in that tiny little pocket of time I had. It was like the babies put themselves to bed. I was like, what is happening here? So all the miracles, right? So it's easy to feel peaceful on a 4-minute mile day where everything's falling into place. So by dinner, I was feeling very good about myself because I even like made dinner, which if you listen to me much, that's a feat. The whole family was sitting down at the table and eating together. Like everything was just picture perfect 4-minute mile day. And I was feeling so good about myself. I took my food, I sat down at the table and I was like, hey guys, you ever heard of the 4-minute mile? And I was ready to like celebrate and tell my whole family about how great the day was. And you don't need the details, but anyway, I just about made it a 5-minute mile day by losing my shiz on my daughter who was doing what I had just told her not to do. And then I quote unquote recovered from that and kept it a 4-minute mile day, which is part of my 4-minute mile. Is not that I'm expecting everything to go perfectly and that I feel perfect the whole time. It's feeling peace amidst the chaos is my 4-minute mile, right? So even if she does what I just told her not to do and she spills her food all over me, then I can still like literally, even if I don't quote unquote keep it together, then I don't beat myself up about it. Like all of that is part of my 4-minute mile. And so because I quote unquote recovered from it, like I didn't completely lose it, and whatever I did quote unquote lose, I had grace for myself. Still considered it a 4-minute mile day. I even made it all the way through bedtime, which that's the main test. It was incredible. So I'm writing in my journal at the end of the night and I'm like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall. Tomorrow is going to be a disaster because today was so good. Tomorrow is going to be the worst because that's how 50-50 life goes, right? And especially if you have that thought that that's how 50-50 life goes. Because did you see how in the morning I started with the gratitude ahead of time, started with the thought that I'm going to have a 4-minute mile day. And then I did. And then that day ended with the thought, and tomorrow is going to be the other 50% of life. And guess what? It was. So that was yesterday. Yesterday was also a 4-minute mile day. I'm telling you, this is the secret sauce, is that even though the kids are sick, they stayed home sick from school, and you know what that looks like. And I was like, I was in my own personal funk. It was like, it still wasn't like a funk like it usually is, because I had the grace for myself. I had the 4-minute mile in mind still, and it didn't matter what I did. Like I'm always preaching, it's not what you do that makes you a good mom. It's just who you are. So even though I had one of my low energy days where I just wanted to be in bed all day, and I was, I got up to make 3 meals a day, which I don't have to do when they go to school. They actually eat lunch because they eat school lunch. It's off the hook. And so if they won't eat any meals I give them, I'm like, at least they ate something at school today. They didn't have that. So it was all up to me. And so I did, get out of bed, get that handled, and, took care of the baby and the things that I needed to do, but like bare minimum. But I was not beating myself up about it. It was incredible. So after like what I used to would have called the other 50% type of day, and it was very in contrast, which is what we say. We have to have the 50% good to understand the 50% quote unquote bad. So yesterday was the quote unquote bad day, and it still wasn't a bad day. It was just the other side of the coin, right? So, even when you're having all the emotions that you think are bad, or that you don't like how they feel, or you don't like how you show up when you don't handle them well, or whatever it is, you can still have peace amidst all of that. That is my 4-minute mile. That is what I want to accomplish, and when I want to be the example of what is possible. And I did for the past 2 days, the 2 different types of days. I still stayed in that headspace, the peace that overarches everything else. So I'm feeling all sorts of things. I'm thinking all sorts of things. I'm doing all sorts of things. The house looks all sorts of ways. The kids are being kids on both days. And I can still stay in my bubble of peace. Okay. That's the thing that we do in hypnobirthing. P.S. If you're pregnant, going to get pregnant soon, check out hypnobirthing. It's awesome. Hypnotherapy for birthing. It's awesome. I did it. Well, we don't need that whole story. But anyway, the point is your bubble of peace is a mental construct from that. That is a great construct to take throughout your whole life, and not just while you're pregnant and getting ready to birth your child. So bubble of peace. It can protect you no matter what's going on inside your bubble of peace, because you're still a human in there. We're not trying to, be so enlightened that we aren't humans anymore, because I don't know about that. But I know that for now, I'm still human, and the world gives us an idea of what peace is. But Jesus says, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. So then he says, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So when I think about peace, I think about things like being chill. In fact, long before I had a podcast and I was thinking about having a podcast someday, I'm like, I want it to be called the Chill Mom Podcast, because that's my goal. That's not anywhere close to how I actually identify. Like, I am not a chill mom. Some people think I am because they see me at church and I can keep it together for an hour at church. But like in general, I would not classify myself as a chill mom. But that's my goal. That's who I want to be. And so that is who I am, because your desires are who you are. I don't have the evidence for it yet, but it's who I am. So that's what I wanted to call this podcast, but the podcast kind of birthed itself. So I didn't do that. But anyway, chill is sort of the idea of peace, right? For me, that's what I think of. And I also think of, because while I was in bed yesterday, I was binging this fun show on Disney Plus called The Wonder Years, which is not the Wonder Years that you think of when you think of the Wonder Years. It's like this new one. And the dad always says, be cool. Be cool. And my dad used to say, you need to learn how to relax. And so when he also would say, be good, or do good, or both. What was it he said? Do good. I think he said do good. Isn't that funny? Because I'm all about like being, not doing now. Sorry, Dad. When you be good, then you also do good. Okay. You gotta be first. So anyway, be cool is like chill. That's like what peace is, right? And we think of kind of like Zen, or like I started with the peace symbols, like, I don't know, hippies and meditating and, all those things is what we think of as peace. And I'm like, we're not just going to be like sitting here meditating in a Zen state all day while like the world is falling apart all around us with the house full of toddlers and littles and babies and the chaos, right? Yes, actually, we are. In our own minds, even in our own human minds that are thinking all the thoughts, feeling all the feelings in our bodies, we can still have some semblance of peace, but it doesn't look like what the world gives you. So the world is trying its best to figure out what peace is, right? But Christ left his peace with us. And he says, so let not your heart be troubled. So what does a troubled heart look like? Neither let it be afraid. What is afraid? So when I was thinking about this, I thought of like, obviously afraid is like fear, anxiety, being anxious, nervous, worried. But then it's like the opposite of peace is like uptight, strung out, freaked out, all those things. So that's kind of what that sounds like to me. is, and you know how when you feel like that, it's not just like an emotion, right? It's a state of being, right? So it's like the opposite of the peace state of being is just sort of this general hum of like anxiety all the time, like just nervous about stuff, worried about stuff. It hits you hard when you have babies sometimes. Like if you've never felt that before, all of a sudden you're in charge of another human life and you love them so much that it causes like um what do they call it? Postnatal anxiety, whatever it's called, postpartum anxiety, right? Postpartum depression and anxiety and things like that. It's um, all of that, right? Would you lump that under your heart being troubled and being afraid? So he's going to give us peace, not like the world gives it. Like the world is trying to figure out how to deal with all of this, right? Anxiety and worry and freaked outness. And if you are like a tense, stressed out, uptight, strung out mom, right? Just being like, hey, relax, chill out, mom. It's like there's nothing to be worried about. We're like, yeah, there's a million things to be worried about. Our brains, the mental load that we carry as moms, it's a lot. Okay. And Christ is promising us his peace, like not once the kids are out of the house, because I talk to a lot of empty nesters. I have their interviews on this podcast all the time, and they are not done with this. Like there's no changing the circumstance to get away from because the thoughts are still going to be there no matter where your kids, even more once you feel like they're not under your control as much, right? So there's no getting away with it, like hoping that this too shall pass when the kids get older or whatever. So we got to figure this out now, okay? And then we can enjoy the now too, and just enjoy while the kids are little, because that's what they always say too. It goes so fast. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but trust me, it goes so fast. So, okay, so peace. How do we get to this peace? I'm telling you, the secret is in the 3 batteries. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. I talked through it. It won't come out now. Oh shoot. Okay. So I have an episode about recharging your 3 batteries. I think I went into quite the bit of detail about that on the last episode about the 4-minute mile. So you already know the how, but working on charging your batteries with the goal of creating more peace is just another layer to think about. So as you're breathing, as you're getting awareness of where you are, accepting that with more breathing for sure. That's lots of breath in the acceptance battery. Then you start living aligned, and that is the peace, my friend. Like that you have awareness of what you're doing, but you're not beating yourself up about it, and just knowing that it's all part of the plan. That is peace. Like peace is having all 3 of your AAA batteries all charged up. So be cool. It's all good. Christ has given us his peace, not as the world giveth. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. And then in that same chapter of John 14, we'll just close with this. He says, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. So all you got to do is breathe in the life, right? The breath of life is Jesus Christ. So breathe him in when you're drowning, because that's the opposite of breathing, right? When you're feeling completely overwhelmed, all you have to do is remember to breathe. And when you breathe, remember that Christ will come to you. He will not leave you comfortless. He is there. He will fill you up. He will help you. That is peace, my friends. And I wish you a very, very peaceful Wednesday. Go get on my email list. I'm about to go write an email all about this also. And so also be sure to sign up for your RBC, your relationship boost call. They are so fun. So all you got to do is have somebody in mind that you want to improve your relationship with, and you come and tell me where you're at with them. I'll help you boost that relationship in just 15 to 20 minutes. So I know you're a busy mama. I'm a busy mama, but go check out my Acuity and find a time that works for both of us at dropthewar.com/appointments, which my outro is going to remind you about that again now. So I will see you there. Peace, my friend. Love you. Bye. Hi, thanks so much for listening. Have you signed up for your RBC yet? What is an RBC? Well, it's a relationship boost call, and I am gifting 365 of these for free this year. So go to dropthewar.com/appointments to find a time that works for both of us. We'll hop on Zoom for a quick 15 to 20 minutes, and all you got to do is have somebody in mind that you want to improve your relationship with. It's fun, it's easy, it's a good time. You're going to feel amazing afterwards. And no strings attached. Just come on, have a great free coaching call, and then go on your way. And you can come back for as many as you need, because we know it's no one and done around here with relationships. So go to dropthewar.com/appointments to find a time that works for both of us. And let's get boosting those relationships. See you there. Bye.